Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron Harris, and first, I would like to start off with a little bit of an introduction exercise. So, for the first exercise, I would like for you guys to look at your phone and just turn it off for me for a couple of seconds. And then the next exercise, I would like for you guys to think of any type of supplement that you take at home. That could be a vitamin D supplement, a vitamin C supplement, a protein shake, anything that you can think of, over-the-counter medicine, prescriptions, anything that you can think of, right? And then lastly, I would like for you to raise your hands if you have driven a car, and stand up if you have done all three things, or if you have participated in all three of those activities. If that answer is yes, thank you very much. You have now understood a little bit about chemical engineering and how it affects our daily lives. Chemical engineering is an amazing discipline that is not really talked about, especially in our generation. It affects our daily lives, and what my job is here to do is to make something that can be extremely complex into something simple so people can engage in it, understand it, and then embrace it a part of our daily lives. But to understand that, first, I want to go over the history of chemical engineering and how it relates to technology today. Secondly, I will talk about the chemical engineering processes in healthcare. And then lastly, I will talk about chemical engineering and how it affects our food as well as our cars and the environment today. All right, but in order to get into the gist of everything, we have to understand the history of chemical engineering. Chemical engineering was a discipline that separated from chemistry around the 19th century. Most of the founders of chemical engineering started off as chemists, and then one day, especially during the rise of the Industrial Revolution, people started to ask the question, how are we going to be able to take the processes that we create in the laboratory of chemistry and put it in a manufactured setting for the Industrial Revolution to make things more efficient and to meet the supply and demand of the world? And that is where chemical engineering combines not only the chemical stuff that you see in laboratories, but also the manufacturing side of engineering that affects our daily lives in terms of production, processing, and things of that nature. So, in the Distillation magazine and the Science and Library of Museums, they talk about the history of chemical engineering and how over the late 19th century and then also in the 20th century, how chemical engineering evolved from something that came from just battleships during World War I into what you see today, which goes into the technology that we have today. So, I would like you to look at your phone. Inside your phone is a semiconductor chip. A semiconductor chip is a microchip that basically drives all of our technology that you see today, from your laptops to your phones to your computers to your refrigerators and even to your microwaves. As technology progresses forward, those semiconductor chips are more important than ever. How does chemical engineering play a part in that? It takes something as small as a grain of sand, and then it grows, and then it changes its chemical composition into the semiconductor chips that we use today in our daily lives. And Chemoneer's ITTK is a little bit of an article. It explains the process how sand goes from just the sand that you see on the beach and turns into silicone to create the semiconductor chips. But maybe that is still a little bit complex, so let me just break it down into something that is a little bit more digestible for you guys, which is also chemical engineering in healthcare. So remember the first exercise, or the second exercise that I said? It was basically about how, thinking about a supplement that you take. It can be a vitamin C pill, it can be a protein shake, it can be anything that involves the things that affects our bodies in a daily life and a daily change. Everything that involves chemical engineering in the pharmaceutical company explains how we have those processes of making pills and how it affects our bodies on a daily life. So when it comes to vitamin C pills, maybe you won't get enough vitamin C in your diet. That's when you take that supplement of vitamin C, and that helps your body perform a little bit better in a daily setting. Our bodies are one of the most important things. It is the most vital things to our function, efficiency, and just overall daily life. So, when chemical engineers help to make our daily lives more efficient, what is a good way in the pharmaceutical company, despite its pros and cons of the pharmaceutical company in 2026. The National Library of Medicine also um, talked about basically how impactful chemical engineering is in the pharmaceutical company. And then how does it affect our daily lives in terms of food consumption, as well as just the fun things that we like to talk about, food and driving. So for me personally, I love nerd clusters. Figured out that I love nerd clusters about 2 months ago. It changed my life forever. And one of the things that I love to do on a weekly basis is just to go out on a daily drive. Although I don't really get a lot of good gas mileage nowadays, those two things also involve chemical engineering. Nerd clusters. We always talk about the big and scary topics, like what is Red 40? That's a scary thing that people are talking about nowadays. What is dextrose? What are these different types of sweeteners, like sodium nitrate and things of that nature? So all of that stuff involves chemical engineering. A lot of our favorite foods that we think about that we used to enjoy as kids. Remember when you had like your grandma give you your favorite candy when you were younger and stuff like that, when you were 5, 6 years old, your grandma might give you a little bit of a candy on the side, especially after church. All those things, all those moments that we share also play a part in chemical engineering. And that's the stuff that I love. As well as also when it comes to cars, you have electric vehicles, you have a lot of progression when it comes to carbon emissions and things of that nature. How to take carbon dioxide, CO2, and turn that into water for us to drink. Those are all processes of chemical engineering that is just groundbreaking to know. So, in conclusion, everything that I talked about today is all about how chemical engineering affects our daily lives, from healthcare to our technology to our food and even our environment. And hopefully that by the end of this speech, you will have learned a little bit more about a complex discipline and how it affects us on our daily lives to make it more simple and easily digestible, to make you think a little bit more during your daily life, and to not be afraid of chemicals. Chemicals are getting a bad rep over the years and things of that nature, but we fear what we don't know. And the more that we know, it is easier for us to excel and to understand and to also just band together and help each other out to understand these nuances of chemicals and also chemical engineering. Thank you guys so much and have a good day.